As you probably know by now, YouTube has been cracking down on videos that they deem to be controversial, and they've been doing this by taking away people's ability to monetize their videos. Personally, I think this is fucking garbage. I mean, I want to be able to say words like, fuck, shit. More importantly, I think YouTubers who are smarter than I am should be able to frankly discuss controversial topics without having to worry about their livelihoods being compromised. At the same time, though, YouTube's not deleting the videos, they're simply taking away the monetization options. So is it really censorship? Before we really get into this topic, I want to first talk about what this isn't. You have a lot of people now with this idea that this is some kind of social justice warrior takeover of YouTube, and they're trying to turn the whole site into a big safe space. Ooh, those fucking cucks. And if you look at some of the videos that are getting hit with these monetization bans, you can see where that idea comes from. But at the same time, then, you have those liberal cucks over at the Young Turks, and they lost something like 500 videos or something like that. So, clearly, YouTube, no matter what your political ideology is, it's all good with them as long as you also agree to go fuck yourself. And you also hear people saying like, oh, I'm an American and they're infringing on my First Amendment rights, blah blah blah, and it's like, it's nothing to do with any of that. I mean, ignoring the fact that YouTube is an international company, so it doesn't matter if you're an American or not, they're not the government, they're a private company, so it's not a First Amendment issue either. They can tell you to do whatever the fuck, you don't have to use them. But at the same time, just because they're not legally culpable for doing that kind of stuff doesn't mean that it isn't censorship. Hypothetically speaking, say you came over to my house and every time you tried to talk, I cut you off with an air horn. So here's I mean, it's my house. If you don't like it, you can get the fuck out. But at the same time, just because I'm within my rights to do that to you doesn't mean that it isn't censorship. I'm literally preventing you from speaking. However, that is a little bit different from what YouTube's doing, so let's take a look at what the definition of censorship is. Dictionary.com. Dictionary.com says, censorship. Noun. The act or practice of censoring. Very fucking helpful, Dictionary.com. Let's try Google. Censorship. The practice of officially examining books, movies, etc., and suppressing unacceptable parts. Now, there's debate over whether or not these monetization bans were done by bots, but I imagine that would still qualify as examining them. They're looking through the tags to see what are the topics that shouldn't be spoken about, that aren't advertiser friendly. But the suppressing thing is still, like, a little open to interpretation, so let's look up what suppressing means. Suppress. To forcibly put an end to, which, if we go about it that way, YouTube isn't censoring people because, like I said before, they're not deleting the videos, and they're not forcing you to use their service. You could speak on Dailymotion or Vimeo or Facebook, so they're not forcibly putting an end to your ability to express yourself. However, the next definition of suppress makes things a little more interesting. To prevent the development, action, or expression of a feeling, impulse, idea, etc., to restrain. So I feel like preventing the development of is a crucial point in whether or not we're going to define YouTube's actions as censorship. Because, alright, a guy like me, like, this is a new channel still, I'm not really making money off this, like, each month maybe I can buy myself a cup of coffee from what I make on YouTube. But then you look at some of these big channels, like the Young Turks, who they've invested so much money into making their channel as professional as possible. They have channels like them have a staff, they have production values, they hire editors, they buy nice equipment. This all comes at a cost. And for that reason, it might not be viable for channels like that who have a higher overhead than a guy like me to actually talk about certain topics that might hinder their monetization efforts. So in that way, they're definitely preventing the development of certain types of content, which by this definition it is censorship. At the same time, that's still kind of tricky, because is it YouTube's fault if a big YouTuber has invested so much and then put all their eggs into one basket? No, especially a basket that they have no control over, which is why it's especially important to branch out into other things, like Phillip DeFranco spoke about in his video talking about this topic, where you can't just be married just to YouTube's ads. You get brand sponsorships, you open up a Patreon, you use Twitch or other types of video streaming services. But regardless of how your individual situation affects the magnitude of the suppression, it's a tricky issue, and I think a lot of people are trying to make this out to be a simpler thing that it really is, so I would really like to hear what you think about this topic. Is it censorship? Is YouTube way out of line? Do you think this is something that's going to blow over after a huge backlash? Or are these creators just acting entitled and YouTube doesn't owe them shit? Let me know what you think. Anyway, see you next time.